The next pick is they went for Aidan O'Connell. And again, they moved up to him 5th round, 135th pick. He's the quarterback out of Purdue. Now, I want to talk about this pick because a lot of people were super critical. The Raiders had one quarterback out of what was considered the Big Four that they thought was an absolute legitimate guy. Had the best, and even none of them they felt were dudes. And remember, a dude, my definition is just a can't miss. And there were only two dudes, and that was Will Anderson and Tyree Wilson. But Bryce Young was a great quarterback up there. C.J. Stroud, Will Levis, and Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. Those are the four guys that a lot of people considered the top four. Only one of them, and remember, check out my story later this week. I'm going to take you inside the draft. I'm going to take you behind the scenes, talk a lot more about potential trades, non-trades, whatever. But there was a lot of people that liked a lot of those different quarterbacks. The Raiders only liked one of them. And I can also tell you emphatically, you will never find one of my mock drafts that had Will Levis. Will Levis was never an option for the Raiders. There was a season where he was an option out of the first round. But without getting into too much detail, I can tell you months ago, he was not an option at all for them. He wasn't a guy that they were considering. So you say, why did he bring him in for a visit? Well, because you want to create as much interest in your position to possibly make a trade. Now, Aidan O'Connell was in a second tier of quarterbacks. The Raiders really liked Hendon Hooker, and I'm going to write more about it next week. But there were some things about Hendon Hooker that, although they still liked him, and none of it was character or talent. Great kid. They loved him. Everybody did loved him. But there were just some things I think probably some concerns that maybe he wasn't healing as fast from his injury last year as people had hoped. And so if you notice my first several drafts, I had him getting Hendon Hooker. And then my last several, he was not there. So they begin to say, okay, we like Hendon Hooker, but in that second tier of quarterbacks, there are plenty of other guys that we like. Again, go watch my Friday post-draft podcast at day 2, and I get into this a lot more. So they were willing to pass over Hendon because there were some guys that they liked. Now, the Raiders really liked Aidan O'Connell. Now, I know there was a lot of people really critical of this pick, and I want to say something. The reason that I define for you how I develop my top board is because I'm not going on Hondo opinion. I go get a bunch of NFL people and college people to tell me what they think. Then I put the boards together and then I weigh it. So if team A has a corner at 100 and team B with a proven track record of developing corners has them a 75, I'm going to have them higher than 100. So having said that to you, I know a lot of people like to just go with the internet and look at what is some person who hasn't worked in the league. And it doesn't mean that those people can't have good evaluations. I'm not minimizing them, but their opinion doesn't mean anything to me like others does. So they run to these boards and they say, well, this person said this. Okay, well, who is this person? Okay, nice person. This is what they do for a living. Or I would assume if they're in the media, but it's not like they do it in the NFL where the NFL world trusts them. I'm sorry, I don't put a lot of weight in that. Secondly, because I know how some of the media put their boards together. I'll just leave it right there. But Aidan O'Connell was a guy that the Raiders last November, he really hit their radar. Now, let me tell you about Aidan. If you just look at his 2022 stats, you may say, But go back to the 2021, go back and look at before. A lot of people thought he was going to leave school early. A lot of people thought he has a chance of being a first or second round quarterback. But there were some things that changed at Purdue, some personnel, some other things. So he didn't have as good of a 22. So the way some of these people put their boards together, they're not, they're doing it because they want clicks and whatever. But the people in the know liked Aidan O'Connell. Now, If you like a mobile quarterback, they did not like Aidan O'Connell. I understand that a lot of fans prefer a mobile quarterback. Now, let me be honest with you. If I was running the Raiders and I was the general manager, I would have wanted a more mobile quarterback because I would want to run a more mobile system. I think it gives you a lot more options and opportunities if you have a quarterback that makes defenders have to be weary about his ability to run. That's how I feel personally. But that's not the system that Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels run. So to go get that guy would be stupid. Wouldn't even make sense. And so I don't blame them for not going to get the guy. If you want to blame them for it, that's your decision. But they were brought in here to run this system. That's why Mark Davis pays them millions of dollars, because that's the system he wants, that he brought them in to run.